the Arch Gaming Network is proud to bring you this board game review. Now here's your host, Sean Smith.
Hello, and thank you for stopping by. Today we're taking a look at the game The Doge Ship, and this was by Marco Canetta and Stefania Nicolini, and is published by Rio Grande Games. Now, The Doge Ship is a worker placement game where you are trying to complete the Doge's ship. This game is set in Venice many centuries ago, and the Doge, I didn't realize what this was, but a Doge was kind of the supreme authority of that time, and he wants a ship built. And you and your workers are going to compete for resources, trying to build the ship, some gondolas. You also have to watch out for floods that are coming as you're building some barriers to protect yourself from that. All the while trying to compete for the Doge's favor, take care of the parts of the ship that he wants built, the colors that he wants built, and all of these things can help you get the necessary victory points to win the game. The one who has the most wins. Now, the game features some dice rolling, a dice rolling mechanic that sets some prices. It also has some resource management, and like I said, it's a worker placement game as well. So why don't we take a look at the setup and a walkthrough, and I'll give you my thoughts on the other side. Okay, to set up, you're going to take the back of the ship and just place it off to the side. But this is what you guys are cooperatively trying to build. You're going to be building these middle pieces using these galley tiles here. And depending on the number of players, it'll determine how many galley tiles that you need. In a two-player game that we're setting up for, you would need 6 lower pieces, 6 upper pieces to complete this ship. You just place this off to the side. We're going to put this out of range for now. We talked about the galley tiles. Now, these tiles will signify what part of the galley it is. So this black square tells you that this is an upper right piece to the galley. You have several tiles for each kind. Here you have the upper middle, and you're going to separate them by what part of the galley they're going to be built. So you're going to have 6 different piles to choose from. You have these Doge tiles that you're going to shuffle and place them face down. You're going to take the top one and place it up. That's the Doge tile for the round. Next, you have these barriers, and the barriers have 2 sides, a construction side and a completed side, and the cost. You also have some gondola tiles, same thing, 2-sided, construction, completed, and the cost. You have these Doge favor tokens, and you're just going to put those in a pile. Each player is going to take all of their colored pieces. You'll have 5 workers. These will be the workers. And then with the remaining ones, you're going to just kind of place one off to the side for now. You're going to place one on the 12. This is the money track. And then this is the victory point track. You're going to place one of your markers there. You're then going to roll the dice. In a 2-player game, we're only using these 3 parts to the board. More players, you would add these. You're going to roll, and then whatever they land on, and we will not use this as an example during the game because that is a terrible roll. You're going to place them on there, and I'll explain why that's terrible in just a moment. Anyway, now this final thing is a variant that we always play with, and it is something that the designer has approved as well, and that is that each player will take 3 of the barrier tokens. All right, and they're going to decide which one they want to keep, and they'll get to place it completed side up. Normally you don't get to do that when you get those tiles. Then the next player will take 3, and maybe we'll do that. Then each player is going to take a look at their completed barrier. They're going to look at the number in the upper right hand corner. Whoever has the lowest number will get to go first and put their token on the 1, and then you'll have the next player will start second. And that's how to set up for the Doge Ship. Okay, let's go over the components of the game, and then we'll get into how a turn works. So the first thing you have are these Doge tiles. Now this kind of sets parameters for the round. So this particular Doge tile tells you several different things. The first thing is that, is there going to be an end of action? Now if you see the Doge, that means that the Doge is going to come and inspect the ship at the end of the round, and you're going to want to have approvals to try and get extra victory points when he shows up. The next section here are the colors that the Doge is concentrating on for this particular round. So if you build a galley tile, for example, you have this galley tile here that has a red and green components to them, you can look at this track. If you build this track or this part of the galley, and you have if you were to have yellow, you would get 2 victory points for completing a part of the ship that had yellow. As you can see, green and red are worth nothing, so you would get no additional victory points for this particular tile. And if you had blue, you would actually lose a victory point. In addition, you have these violet areas of the ship. Now it marks the 6 areas of the ship: the left, right, mid, and then the upper and lower sections. If you build a galley tile in a section that is purple, the section of the ship that's purple, you're going to get an extra approval token for that. So the tiles have different numbers and different parts that they're concentrating on. And at the end of this round, if you see this kind of mark, that means that really nothing's going to happen special. The Doge isn't coming to visit. However, this symbol here means that there is going to be a flood coming. When you see the flood tile, that means that you are going to have a number of completed barriers greater than what the number is on this tile. So this flood coming is 3, so you have to have at least 4. If you have equal to or less, you're going to end up losing some workers in the following turn. We talked about the barrier tiles, double-sided, completed side, construction side. When you decide to pick up one of these tiles, you're going to pay that cost, and then when you complete it, you will place it on top of the other barrier that you have. So you're stacking the barriers on top of each other. When you do that, you have a special action or a bonus that you get from this tile. So this particular tile says that anytime you take this action, you're going to get 1 victory point. Okay, and those actions are out here on the board. You also have gondola tiles, and the gondola tiles are also double-sided, and it shows you the cost. Some are 0, some are 1, and when you complete them, the bonus that you get for completing them is on the other side. This one you're going to get 5 ducats for completing this gondola. This is a quick way for you to get extra cash in the game. You have these favor tokens or approval tokens, and these can be helpful when the Doge comes to visit at the end of a round and at the end of the game, because you can get additional victory points for having them. And we talked about the galley tiles already, but again, these are the colors that are associated with this particular galley tile. And then when you construct it, that's how much it costs to construct it. This is how many victory points you're going to get for constructing it, and this is the part of the galley that it goes to. It's important to note when you are building the ship, you are building this ship from left to right, and in a 2-player game, you're going to have 2 left pieces, 2 mid pieces, 2 right pieces, all on the bottom, and 2, 2, 2 on the top. You build from left to right and from bottom to top. So at this point, I could not place one here because there is no bottom piece to support it. Next, you have the dice in the game. Now, the dice are what will set the price for the various actions for a particular round. Whenever you send a worker to do an action, anything that is on the die or to its left is free. It won't cost you any of these ducats down here at the bottom, okay? Anything to the right will cost you. If it is 1 to the right, it costs 1, 2, 3, and 4 ducats to perform that action. So how does a turn work? Well, the player that has the lowest value on their barrier will get to, of course, they'll go first. So the green player is going first in this round. Now, as you're building more barriers, remember, when you build another barrier, it goes on top of the next one. So your number can change and the bonus associated can change as well. Okay, so this kind of shows you stacking up your dam or your barrier. What you'll do is take one of your workers and place them in any row that has a die on it. Let's just say this worker wants to go here. That is going to cost him 3 ducats because it is to the right, so you would move down 3 spots. So how do you read this board, okay? Well, after the die, the first row that you have here is the action associated with it. The first action you have is an intrigue icon. When you decide to do this particular action, you get to do an intrigue, which is to choose a new Doge tile. So maybe you see a flood's coming and you don't want it, so maybe you are going to change that Doge tile that is out and maybe change it to something else. Whenever you see the bag icon, that is a purchase goods. So in this particular case, you could purchase a barrier or a galley piece. If you decide to build a barrier, you will get to take 3 of these barrier tiles. You get to look at them, decide which one you want to keep, all right, and then you'll return the other 2, plus you're going to pay the amount. Some are zeros, some have payments to them. So let's say he wants to keep this. It says anytime you land on a treasure action, you're going to get a favor. You're going to put this construction side up. You haven't built it yet, so that would cost 1 if you were to do that, and you just return the other 2 to the bottom of the pile. This action here is the treasury, so if you do this action, you get 2 coins. Always remember that when you're doing these actions, if you have, for example, if you were to do the intrigue, you would get 1 victory point for doing that every time you were to do that. And that would happen every time you did an intrigue until maybe this barrier tile was covered up. So here you would have a treasury and you could just move yourself up 2. This is a build. So if you have some items that are under construction, you can come here. Now this says that you can do a construction of a gondola or a galley piece. If you don't have any of those pieces, it won't do you any good. Now this is also a buy building materials action, but as you can see, it has a plus symbol next to it. So when you land or do this action, you are able to, in this case, purchase a barrier and a gondola. And you would take 3 of the barriers, choose the one you want, pay the cost. Then you would take 3 gondolas, choose the one you want, pay the cost, and put them construction side up. And you're going to wait until you do a build action to where you can either build a barrier or a galley tile or a gondola. And that is how you complete them. When you do gondolas, as soon as you build one of those, if you use a build action to complete this, you'll turn it over and you will get whatever that reward is. They're either going to be ducats or approval tokens. Once you have done this, you will just return this tile to a discard pile. So players will take turn placing their workers, paying the cost, and doing those actions. Keep in mind you can only have one action per spot per round. Now keep in mind one of the actions that you can do is to get approval tokens. So if you do this action, you'll pick up one approval token. The tokens come in values of 1 and 3. That's one way that you can get approval tokens. The other way is when you complete galley tiles. Again, these are the colors that if the Doge is looking for them, you may get additional victory points. But when you complete this tile, you're going to pay 5 to complete it, but then you're going to get 2 victory points and 1 approval token. And then by looking at the Doge tile for this round, the Doge is concentrating on these 2 sections of the ship. So if you were to complete that section, you would also get another approval. So what can you do with the approval tokens? Well, on the Doge tile, if you have a picture of the Doge coming at the end of the round, meaning after all players have placed all of their workers, that ends the round. Now you check the tile. If there's a flood, you have to check for barriers. We'll talk about that in just a second, but this means that the Doge is coming to visit. When the Doge visits, you are trying to win his approval, so you will secretly take your approval tokens, choose however many you want to bid secretly, and then just hold them out. All players who want to vie for his approval will put out their own approval tokens. And on a count of 3, you'll just reveal. Whoever has the most, who has bid the most, is going to pick up additional victory points. So if you had the most, you would get 6 victory points. If you had the second most, you would get 3 victory points. Third, you'd get 1 victory point. Now, whether or not you received any victory points or not, whatever you bid, you have lost, and you'll return them to the inventory. Now, players are going to continue to build this ship out, and like I said, in a 2-player game, it's 6 bottom pieces, 6 upper pieces. Once that final tile has been placed, you'll place this at the front, and that signifies the end of the game. And at this point, what you're going to do is the Doge is going to have a final inspection. Whoever has the most approval tokens at that point is going to get an additional 9 victory points. And then it progressively gets lower depending on what place you were in with the approval tokens. Whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game is the winner. All right, so that is the Doge Ship. It's an interesting game. The components to the game, I have to say I'm not impressed with them. It's not that there's anything, wrong with them. The dice are okay quality. They're your workers though, they're just wooden discs. It'd been nice if they maybe did something a little different or spruced them up, but they're fine components. The artwork in the game, it doesn't pop. There's just something about the artwork. It's not bad. It's just, it feels dated, I think is probably the best word for it. The artwork does seem a little dated. It's not anything that stands out. I mean, even, when I first looked at the box for it, and I saw this, my thought was, I don't know. It didn't make me want to play it. I think what ended up making me want to play it was the fact that it's a worker placement game, and I do really enjoy that mechanic. As far as some of the other components, I mean, there's some production issues on here. Some of the tiles have, the printing issue on them. There's not supposed to be the white there. So minor though, right? Now, the instructions clearly state when you build one of these parts of the ship, okay, when you build them, you have to pay that amount. It's a little counterintuitive because everything else, when you complete it, you're getting the money that is on the actual tile. So the first time we played this game, I had maybe unfortunately overlooked that rule that that you're supposed to pay this amount, and everybody was, we had so much money it was ridiculous because we kept giving ourselves that money. Not the game's fault.
No, dear, that's wrong.
My fault, but it was. I did feel it was a little counterintuitive to how some of the other cards play. So component-wise, it's all right. However, this is a game I really enjoy playing. I do enjoy worker placement games, and there's something about the rolling of the dice at the beginning of the round to set the prices that I really find interesting, and then being able to try and compete to get, to get the things done that you need at the least cost for you. And I find that, a fun way to set prices for the goods, because you don't know what's going to happen on each roll. And I think the barrier tiles really bring an extra component to that game, where because it does three different things, are you scrambling to have to build some barriers because a flood's coming, or maybe you want a lower number on your card so that you can go first on the next round. Or maybe there's a special power on that barrier card that you want to use. So just having the multiple uses for those barrier cards I thought was smart. So components aside, I really enjoy playing the game. I do like the mechanics. I like the worker placement aspect of it. I like trying to build that ship together, and just having to try and manage those resources to give you that best chance at winning the game at the end. Also, the bidding process, for when that Doge is going to set up or show up. I enjoy bidding games. I enjoy worker placement games. So for me, this, for a game that plays light and is easy to teach other players, I do enjoy it. So I give the game a 7. Now, if you've enjoyed this review, please hit the like button below, subscribe to our channel, and check out our other videos. And once again, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for visiting the Arch Gaming Network. For more great content, check us out at archgamingnetwork.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook.